Dear students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. We are going to discuss about the topic employment communication. Now, when we talk about employment communication, it is an important aspect of business communication because it is related to communication between the job seeker and the potential employers. So, it becomes the responsibility of a job seeker that he presents himself in the best possible manner to his prospective employer. So as to grab the job. So, it is viable way or ways through which job seeker persuades the employer to hire him or her, demonstrating that his or her knowledge and expertise and skills in the areas, in different areas, whatever are being expected by the employer. When we talk about communication related to employment, it all starts with when you see a job that is being posted in a newspaper or in a email, in emails or somewhere on the internet where you have to apply online. So, when we get these kind of advertisements about some vacancy in an organization, we have certain information in these advertisements. We need to check on that, on those information. Now, first of all, what do we need to check? We need to check what is the organization, what are the different products of that organization. Then of course, what is the vacancy, which kind of vacancy is being created in that organization, what are the eligibility criterias that would meet, that you would require to meet to get that job, and similarly you also need to see what is the end date to apply for that particular job. Then only this employment communication will be successful or it will be effective. Now, as a job seeker, it becomes a responsibility that you prepare your resume or you promote yourself, your skills, your expertise sets in front of the potential employer, so that you get that job whatever you are applying for. So, employment communication revolves around the written communication between the employer and the job seeker. Now, whatever written communication is done between the employer and the job seeker, it is all included in the employment communication. Now, employer communicates with the job seeker in the prospective talents about the vacancies, companies, culture, perks, benefits and securities, etc. So, it depends upon the advertisement, it depends on the advertisement where the employer has posted the number of vacancies in his organization, and he is searching for certain skill sets in the employees to be his future employees. So, the prospective candidates have to communicate this particular skill sets in front of the potential employers. Now, if as a candidate, if as a job seeker, I am able to understand the requirements of my employer or prospective employer, then I would be able to, there are chances that I would be able to grab that job in a easy manner. So, it becomes my responsibility to present my skills, to present my skill sets, to present my expertise sets in front of the potential employer in the form of a better resume or in the form of a CV with and of course, along with a covering letter. Now, of course, over here I would like to tell that covering letter is an important aspect of a resume or a CV that you put forward for the for applying for a vacancy in the organization. Now, what is a covering letter? Now, over here this communication is being done by the candidate himself, and the covering letter is a letter which covers your resume, which covers your CV, and it gives a short kind of perspective about the candidate. It gives the name of the candidate. You can also tell about a few of your educational qualification in that covering letter, and of course, you need to tell which job you are going to apply for. Suppose the employer has posted a number of jobs on the newspaper. So, you will not be applying for all the jobs, you will be applying for one or two jobs. So, for every job you need to give us a different CV or different resume with a covering letter. Now, every covering letter will be having the code or the type of job or the name of the job that you are going to apply for. So, this covering letter is an important aspect when we communicate with our potential employer. Now, looking for a job is not a single event, it is a process of events. It becomes a very cumbersome and it becomes a very lengthy process when we see into it. Why? Because once the initiation is being done by the employer by posting the job or the vacancies on the internet or on the newspaper, and the organization starts finding job seekers, it starts finding prospective candidates who could come up and fill up those vacancies. Now, it all starts with this. Now, once the job seeker or the candidate looks into these advertisements, he becomes attracted towards the organization and he sees that his skill sets can match the requirement that are being asked by the employer. So, if these skill sets matches with the requirement that are being asked by the employer, you can definitely go forward to apply for those jobs. So, there is a need to learn about the vacancies, there is a need to understand about the organization, the requirement of the organization, the skill sets that the organization would be required. So, for that purpose, go through the advertisements in a very careful manner, go through the whole write up in a very careful manner, what exactly the organization is asking for. Now, it is not difficult as it appears to land on a good job even in the midst of the tough competition. That means, it is not that difficult as it appears that getting a job is a very difficult task. No, getting a job is not a difficult task at all. It is just that you have to present yourself as a suitable candidate for that particular job. Now, when the screening is done on the part of the employer, now employer receives a lot number of applications and he cannot call each and every one who has applied for the job. Why? Because he will find out the prospective candidates who have better chances to join the organization. Now, in all that pool of candidates, he will be shortlisting, he will be the organization will be shortlisting or screening a lesser number of candidates who would be applying for the next set of interviews. Now, this screening is only the important aspect which the candidate should know. Now, in the screening only the candidates are aware that what are the aspects the employer is looking forward to, and if we present these aspects to the employer, we will be screened out in the first round itself. Otherwise, applying for the job is just a routine task. Another fact that needs attention here is that it is not necessarily that most talented gets the job. Now, of course, talented will get the job, but not less talented will not get the job. This is not so, because if you are not that much talented or your skill sets are somewhat lesser, you need to present those skills which are better in you, or if, what you think is better in you. So, presentation of your resume, presentation of your CV is an important aspect. So, then it will be better for you, then it will be a better chance for you to grab that particular job. Now, stages to get a job. Now, of course, when we talk about employment communication, we why do we communicate with the employer? To get a job, a very important aspect of business communication. Now, an aspirant for a job has to pass through various stages to get the job. Now, what are these particular stages? Through to get a particular job, so that your chances of getting the job becomes better, your chances of getting the job becomes stronger. Now, the very first point is that you know your potential. Know your potential means the candidate is always aware that what are his plus points, what are his potentialities, what are his competencies which he has above other candidates. Now, of course, these competencies, these skill sets need to be presented in front of the employer, so as to compete with other job seekers who are also applying for the same job. Now, knowing your potential is a bit cumbersome job, is a bit you can say a series of job where you need to know what are your skill sets. Just by saying that I am a dynamic person, I am a hard working person, or I have done a postgraduate in engineering or some kind of degree, just by saying this does not represents your potential. It is important that you present these skills, you present these particular aspect of your educational area or your personal area in a specific manner or in a very beautiful manner. Secondly, recognize potential employer. Now, of course, after knowing the potential of yourself as a job seeker, it is also important that you should know the potential, you should know who are your potential employers, because everyone cannot apply for every job. Like for example, if we talk about teachers, we as a teacher, we can apply in academics, in different universities, in different organizations, institutions who are which are running the courses such as PG courses or UG courses. If I am going to apply in corporate sector, of course it will be altogether a different sector, and a different skill set would be needed for me to apply over there. Of course I will be able to apply in those jobs, but the chances of getting selected over there are lesser. Why? Because I have been into teaching for such a long time. So, it is important that I know my potential employers, who can hire me, who are the people who can hire me, which are the organizations who can hire me, where my skill sets will be better required. So, job seekers need to choose amongst the various employers who are available with a number of vacancies in the market. Now, if he has required competencies, suppose the person has the required competencies in the banking sector. So, of course, you will be applying in the jobs which are open in the banking sector only. Of course, a finance person cannot apply for HR job. Similarly, an HR person cannot apply for a cloud computing job or say IT job. Now, this is why it is important. Now, these 2 points go in coordination with each other, where the candidate or the job seeker knows his potential, he understands his potential, and then he according to his potential, according to his skill sets, he tries to recognize the potential employer outside who would be interested in hiring him, who would be interested in taking him as his employee. Then comes the third point, that is the applying for the job. Now, applying for the job is though it is the third point, but it is a long process. Now, of course, applying for a job is a long process. We will go step by step in this. It starts with when the job seeker sees the advertisement either on the newspaper or on the emails or on the internet, where he need to apply for the online jobs. Now, once you look at these advertisements, you see you directly see what kind of vacancies are being created. Now, you look into the vacancies and look into the eligibility criteria of those vacancies. Definitely, at that moment itself, you see that okay, these eligibility, I meet these eligibility criteria, so I can apply for these particular jobs. Now, I am ready to apply for suppose 5 or 6 jobs. Now, these 5-6 jobs which I am going to apply for, there is a need of 2 things. That means, the first one is the covering letter, where I would be addressing the organization to give me an opportunity to apply for that particular job, and of course, I will also address the organization telling about what kind of job I am going to apply and what are my skill sets that would be best suited for this particular job. And then again I will be attaching my resume or my CV along with that covering letter. Similarly, if suppose I am going to do this online, I have to prepare a covering letter in my email address, and then in my attachment I have to give that CV or resume to my to the organization. Now, once the organization gets these number of applications from the applicants or the job seekers, now they start shortlisting, they start screening the different applications on the basis of certain criteria they have put forward. Now, again, once the screening is done, you may get the communication that yes, you are selected for the second round, or you are selected to come for an interview in the organization on such and such date or such and such time. Now, this is the process of applying for the job. Now comes the fourth point, that is interviewing and participation in the group discussion. Now, of course, once you are selected, once you are screened out in the first step, and the organization calls you up to appear for the interview. Now, here it is an important aspect that when you are called for an interview, the date and the time, date, time and venue is very important aspect. Now reaching late to the interview is also not a good habit. So you should be before time, at least 15 minutes before time at the venue to reach for the interview. You can also come in, if you are late, if you cannot reach on that particular date, suppose you have some other assignment on that particular date, you can communicate with the employer that you would be coming a day before or day after. Will it be possible for the employer to adjust your interviews on such date? Now of course this communication will also be an important aspect of employment communication itself, because it is included in the follow up. That means right from applying into the job, then giving your particulars, giving your CV or resume to the employer, then continuously pursuing and then going for interviews, then again pursuing for your job and waiting for the feedback from the employer, maybe you are selected for the next round. All this will be continued in the particular employment communication. Now coming down to the next part, that means why employment communication is being done, how it is being done. Now employment communication, we have talked about a covering letter and CV. Now we have three parts which can be attached into a covering letter. Now the first one is the resume, the second is the CV, and the third one is the biodata. I will be telling about all these three in detail. You need to understand the difference between the three and what kind of information does each contain, because you cannot present CV everywhere, you cannot present resume everywhere, or you cannot present a biodata everywhere. So it is necessary that you understand the difference between all these three and where these are being applied. So very first we can I start up with curriculum vitae, that is CV. The phrase curriculum vitae means the course of life. It provides detailed account of an applicant covering every skill, all the jobs and positions held, degrees, professional affiliations he or she acquired in a proper sequence. Now I have talked about detailed account of applicant. That means CV is a detailed account of whatever you have done in your course of life. It will be included including all kinds of degrees, professional degrees, the awards, the achievements, the recognitions you have achieved from your last employer. So it is a detailed kind of account of the applicant. Now of course when we talk about CV, it is specifically details or focuses on the skill sets of the employee. So for example, if we talk about a CV of a salesperson, now he will be exhibiting skills such as dynamic, such as outspoken, such as you can say cooperating with the people, meeting with people, he likes meeting with people, moving around, he likes traveling. So these are the particular aspects which are expected from a salesperson, because he need to move along, he need to meet several people in a particular day time. Now second one, if we say CV is a in-depth and structured information about a professional experience and qualification of a person. Now when we talk about in-depth and structured information, that means it already has a base. CV already has a base. That means before CV we have a resume. Resume is a shorter form, it is a summary, it is a short summary of your achievements or your skill sets or your degrees. Now once resume becomes richer and richer with your experience, then only it becomes your CV. It is a more elaborate form of the resume. So this is a sample image of a CV, where we have computer skills, we have education skills and publication. This is just an example. You can also exhibit other kind of skill sets in the CV. Now coming down to resume. Resume, when we talk about resume, it is a French word which means summary. Now resume contains summary of applicants' education, professional skills, previous jobs and personal interest. Now Of course, resume is a short form of your CV. Now, of course, wherever you see that the job requirements are of specifically short kind of information, then we can use our resume. Otherwise, if the job requirements need to be focusing on different skill sets, on experience sets, then of course we need to give a CV, because CV will be elaborating each and every point, each and every skill sets, each and every professional skills of the person, and it will be elaborating on each and every aspects. So, it aims at presenting a personalized document that must be fully groomed using applicants' effective writing skills. Now, it starts with when we talk about resume, it all starts with a personalized document. It is a personalized document, and it will be telling about your, first of all, your experience, then it will be talking about your professional education, then it will be talking about your educational qualification, and so on. A number of heads are there when we talk about resume, but we only give a brief account of different aspects and under every head. It should be precise, it should be very factual, where each statement needs to be authentic and not blown up beyond the value. That means now here you have to be brief, you have to be very short and precise. Yes, completed graduation from Lucknow University in year 1996 with this much percentage. Now, this much is sufficient for a line under your educational qualification. Now, of course, when we are talking about your graduation from Lucknow University with some percentage, the facts related to this degree, this particular graduation should not be different, or they should be true to the fact. Now, whatever you are presenting in the resume, CV or biodata, they should be true, and the employer expects that the true information is only being told by the job seeker. Now, if we talk about a sample resume, this is a sample resume where the person has given his personal profile. He has also mentioned his education, he has mentioned his experience, he has mentioned his achievements also. So, this is a particular example of resume. There is not much difference when we look on to the format of a CV and a resume. There is not a very much difference between the two. Why? Because we say short summary as a resume, and we say detailed input, detailed structured input as a CV. So, a resume can be called as a base structure, can be called as a network structure on which the CV continues to be built up. So, once you are a fresher, if you are a fresher, you will be making up a resume, wherein in the initial steps you will be just telling about your name, the objective, why you are why you are going to apply for this particular job, then if you have certain kind of experiences, so you will be putting them. Then comes your professional education, then comes your educational qualification, then comes your strengths, weaknesses, and some kind of references are also given. Now, this much is sufficient for a resume of a fresher. Now, once you join a particular organization as a fresher and you continue to work for, say, suppose 1 or 2 years in that organization. Now, in these 1-2 years, now your experience has also increased. So, in experience head, you will be increasing the number of years where you will be telling your new your experience with the your number of years with your new employer. There you will also be, if you will be you are getting any kind of recognition in these 2 years, or any kind of awards or any kind of promotions you are getting in these 2 years, you would also be mentioning. Now this resume only gets richer and richer and grows day by day when you start doing your job and continues through years. Now, after say suppose 10 or 15 years, your resume becomes so much rich, and so much content comes in due to the achievements and awards and skill sets. The resume converts into your CV. Now, what are the advantages of a well written resume? Now, of course, if resume is a well written one, we have a lot of advantage. Now, it makes the first long lasting impression on the employer, because employer will look at the resume, and if it is well presented, of course, your chances of being a prospective candidate for the employer becomes more. So, through Though resume and CV may not be sole basis for hiring the candidate, it could be a reason for early rejection. So, for the purpose of first screening, for the first selection by the employer, it is important that you make a good resume. That does not mean you should be very much decorating your resume, but it should be an impressive resume. The resume or CV should be designed and drafted in that attract the feeling of the fleeting eyes of the employer. The employer is attracted towards the resume of the candidate. It provides the opportunity to highlight the unique skills of the candidate. Now, talking about the third one, that is the biodata. Biodata is a form of short biographical data. It mainly contains the personal information. Now, of course, we are not going to apply for a job by our biodata. Do remember, never give your biodata when you are going to apply for a job, because it is generally the personal facts of a person. Now, it includes date of birth, person's height and weight, father's, mother's name and gender, complexion, religion, marital status, nationality, personal permanent address. It may also include some of your educational background, professional background, strengths, weaknesses, but it is not included to be sent with for the application in the vacancy. Now, when we talk about some do's and don'ts of the CV, it is very important to understand that CV or resume should be of a some reasonable length. Now, there is no need to extend pages by pages and giving on facts and figures if they are not required. So, the CV should be true and factual. Now, enough personal details should be given so that potential employer can contact you, not more than that. Now, that much the limit to which the personal details have to be given should be decided by the employee himself. Choose a format that highlights the key skills, key competencies and key achievements. Then comes list all the relevant qualifications. Now, whenever you are applying for the job, list all the relevant qualifications. You can skip the qualifications which are not required for that particular job. Now, do not include negative or irrelevant information. Of course, while giving the information, if you just try to increase your data, if you just try to increase the number of pages, maybe sometimes some negative information or irrelevant information goes to the employer. So, be very precise, be very to the point when you are preparing your resume or CV. Include details of training or skills development event attended. Use a very good quality of paper. While submitting a resume, it must be accompanied with a covering letter. We have already talked about it, is a very important aspect. Do not forget to attach a covering letter whenever you are sending an email or a letter for a application for the job. Include references if needed. Include references only if needed, because references are the people who will be ensuring that the person is telling the truth about himself, or whatever facts you are giving in the resume will be justifiably given by the references. So, these are the particular information that needs to be included when we talk about employment communication. None of the facts should be missed out or skipped, and while applying you need to check, before applying you need to check your letters for grammatical mistakes, any kind of other mistakes, and then only prepare to send for a job application. Thank you.